following podcast is recorded and produced by Emerge, a media creators co-op, in affiliation with the network at bicbp-radio.com.
Welcome back to the Big YAC. It's your boy Nico, Sal, and Benny, and we are finally back for the first episode of 2025. I took a little winter hiatus, spent some time and recuperated, and then I got sick, and then it was kind of a long time coming to get the first episode going in 2025, but we are back, and we are here. Today, I am joined by Alex Antonacci. Welcome aboard. Very Italian name.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Welcome aboard. So, Alex and I, we've been trying to work to get this happening for a little bit now. He's home from college for winter break, so definitely wanted to get him on before he head back, and timing worked out perfectly. So, Alex, welcome aboard.
Thank you. Thank you for having me again.
Of course. Yeah. This is his first podcast appearance for anyone listening. So, super excited to have you on, and glad to introduce you to this different kind of world.
I know. It's pretty cool. The cameras everywhere, everything.
It's like radio, but it's not.
Yeah.
So, first thing I saw as soon as you walked in the board was that Broncos logo that you have on your chest. So, I take it you're a Broncos fan.
I am a Broncos fan, yeah.
How did that come to be over here in Western New York? Did you grow up in Denver? Did you grow up around Colorado? Do you have ties over there? Tell me about it.
So, I grew up here in Niagara Falls, but, as every young kid does, they get on their PlayStation 4 and they play Madden, right?
Of course.
And right around that time I started playing Madden was around 2012, 2013, and I think we can all remember how
Manning era,
how great that Manning era was, especially that 2013 year when Manning threw 56 touchdowns, 5,400 yards, and so they were the most fun team to use. And then once I started playing Madden, then I started watching more football. And then when I was watching football, I was like, oh well, let me watch the Broncos. And then I fell in love with like Peyton Manning and Von Miller and that whole team, and ever since then I just stuck with them.
That's pretty impressive, because after Peyton and the Broncos won the Super Bowl, they kind of just faded off into obscurity for 8 years.
They did. They had one winning season with Trevor Siemian the year after, like 9-7, and then it's been a long road since that.
And that's what's so interesting to me about you being a Broncos fan is, like, a lot of kids that aren't Bill, like, especially in my generation, like, kids that aren't Bills fans because they grew up watching the Bills suck. And so they just fell in love with other teams, they fell in love with other players, or, again, they played Madden, and the Bills were never a good team to play on Madden. So,
exactly.
But, you stuck with that team at a young age, even though they were, I think, 7-9 on average over the last 10 seasons. So this has got to feel really good for you to finally see the Broncos have a good team and a good future ahead of them.
Yes.
Now, I got to ask you, were you at the game on Sunday?
I was at the game on Sunday.
How was that?
It was a great experience. I sat on the visitor side, of course.
Great.
I was about 40-yard line, row 6. I thought, when am I ever going to get a chance to have a Broncos playoff game in Buffalo? I was like, I have to go.
Absolutely.
I have to be in a great spot. And it was just so cool just to being able to see the entire team like right in front of you. And it was great, surrounded by Broncos fans.
As a Broncos fan in Bills territory, what was that like? Did you have a lot of hostile fans around you, or
yeah. I was getting chirped?
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
I bet. How about other Broncos fans? Was there a good number?
Yeah, actually, right on the visitors sideline, right in my section, about the first, I'd say, like 10 rows, it was actually flooded with Broncos fans. We were in the majority.
So it's interesting. I was also at the game. I was there with my girlfriend Bree and a lot of her friends and whatnot. And we were talking about that before the game. We got there a little early, and we were looking around, and we're like, wow, there are a lot of Broncos fans here, which is, again, with the team being Denver and them kind of being an obscure team.
Right.
I was so shocked to see the amount of fans that were there. And, obviously, as we got closer to kickoff, as the Bills fans finished their tailgating and poured in, I mean, it was still a Bills game through and through, but I was shocked at the amount of Broncos fans that made the trip out to Buffalo to see this game. So
definitely.
Very, very interesting. And, after that first drive, I was a little nervous.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie.
After that first drive, I was pretty excited, and then kind of faded away after that.
It's funny. My uncle and my cousin are big Broncos fans. We have a ton of family out in Colorado, so I low key, I like the Broncos.
Right.
I always, if it's not the Bills, if it wasn't going to be the Bills that were going to win that game, I was going to root for the Broncos and take it all the way. But he was texting me the entire time. He was chirping at me, especially after that first drive. He's like, I don't know. And then it was pretty radio silent after that.
Yes.
But so let's talk about Bo Nix.
All right.
So what did you see his rookie year that really stood out to you? And what do you think the future is like for them going forward?
So I'll start with this. Originally, when we picked him in the draft, I did not like the pick. I didn't know how it was going to work out. I was like, maybe wait another year for a quarterback. I didn't really believe in Bo Nix at first. But he came in. He had a couple games that he struggled early on in the year. But then once he came out and beat Tampa Bay, that was when I was like, okay, he has something here. I think he tossed around like 29 touchdowns. He was like 6th in the league in touchdown passes, and he just showed a lot of poise. And I don't know if you saw how he had the broken or the fractures in his back for the last like 6 weeks of the year. I mean, for a rookie quarterback to go through that with an injury and still play like the way that he was playing towards the end of the year, I think that was really impressive by Bo Nix.
So he led all rookie quarterbacks in completions, passing yards, touchdown passes, and total touchdowns, ranked second in passer rating among rookies, I think the first being Jaden Daniels.
Mm-hmm.
His 29 touchdown passes were second most by a rookie in league history.
Yes.
So, hey, that's a hot start. And you know what? If there's anyone that's going to kind of take the crown away of Rookie of the Year from Jaden Daniels, it's going to be Bo Nix.
Definitely.
So what a fascinating start for a rookie. And I guess my question for you now, too, is taking a look at Sean Payton's system. And, you know, Sean Payton being such this veteran head coach and such a, iconic name in NFL history.
Definitely.
And pairing him up with a rookie quarterback. How do you think that this is going to bode for the future?
I think it's going to be really well. I mean, Sean Payton has came out and just talked so highly of Bo Nix and I know, like, you know, he was saying how they kind of threw the smoke screen to try and like get people to think that they were taking J.J. McCarthy, and then they just went out and got you know, their guy Bo Nix. And I think there was this one report where I saw, I think it was like Luke McCown, I think, and he was the backup quarterback for like the Saints, and he was with Sean Payton, and he came out and said, besides Drew Brees and Sean Payton, this is like one of the best quarterback head coach duos that you could have between Bo Nix and Sean Payton. I love Sean Payton's system. I love like the quick passing. Only thing that he has to work on is not just run pass. That was a big theme in the Bills Broncos playoff game. It was just run, you know, first and second down, and then pass on third down. We can't be doing that. You know, it's very predictable.
Yep.
But I think the future is going to just be so bright, you know, and that's depending on how long Sean Payton is going to coach as well, too.
Now, yeah, he's actually getting up there in age,
Yes.
and I didn't realize it when I was looking at it. He's 61 years old.
Yeah. So that gets, like, you know, he's starting to get to that time of how much longer.
Right.
You know.
And now, again, we can talk about Bill Belichick and his age and how he just
Right.
doesn't seem to stop coaching, but you'd have to expect if the Broncos keep winning, if
Right.
they have, you know, the same success they have with Bo Nix now, I could probably at least the next, I don't know, 10 years.
Hopefully, yeah, hopefully.
But no, fantastic from the Broncos. And how about their defense, man?
Yes.
That's the one thing that's really been their strong suit over the last however many years
Right.
during this playoff drought.
Yes.
Especially, I mean, talking about guys like Pat Surtain, who's finally getting recognition in the national media, who was I felt was underrated for the longest amount of time, and guys like Nick Bonito and whatnot. So, how about that defense, and how do you think that defense is going to bode for the future?
I think we're going to continue to be good. I mean, we had a great transition from last year. We had two veteran safeties last year that left us, like Justin Simmons and Kareem Jackson, and we were able to fill in with youth and not really lose a step with our defense. But like you said, that has been one of our strong suits for the last how many years? I mean, you know, Vance Joseph, people are trying to scoop him up away from us. And I think we're going to get back Alex Singleton. And that was someone who he tore his ACL early in the year, and one of the things that we could not do against the Bills was stop the run. And Alex Singleton is, you know, like middle linebacker or outside linebacker, one of the two. And And I think that'll be huge for us going in the future. Just we were missing one of the biggest pieces of our defense.
Absolutely. Moving on to going into the divisional round.
All right.
So, Broncos eliminated. Do you have a team that you're following going into the last few weeks?
Last few weeks now, usually every time Broncos were eliminated, I usually just follow wherever Rodgers was.
Sure.
But now Rodgers is eliminated. And then once Rodgers was eliminated, the last 10 years, then I'd be like, all right, what are the 49ers doing? 49ers are eliminated.
Nothing.
So now I really don't have a team that I'm really rooting for.
Like I'm sitting there, it's like, well, the Bills beat you, so you don't really want to root for the Bills. You're definitely not rooting for the Chiefs.
I'm not rooting for the Chiefs. No.
And then it's like, okay, do you shift gears into the NFC?
Right.
Like, where do you go from here? I guess in pivoting from that question, who's your prediction to win it all this year?
I think, I don't know. I know it's the easy pick, but I like the Chiefs three-peating.
Yeah?
I like the Chiefs to three-peat this year.
How much does it pain you to say that? You gotta think logically.
It does
sucks
pain me.
to think logically.
It
right?
does, but they heat up at the right time every single year. So
funny you mentioned that. That's the first game on the slate of this weekend.
Yes.
Texans at Chiefs. The Chiefs are 8.5-point home favorites over the Houston Texans. Over/under is set at 41.5. So those odds are spread out the way they are. It's looking like this. Vegas is at least projecting this to be a blowout by the Chiefs.
right.
Now, Kansas City in recent years, especially the last two, their offense hasn't even really been the star of the show. It's really been the defense and what Steve Spagnuolo has been doing with that team. It's just young and it's fast and it hits you in multiple different ways. So, but it's still Patrick Mahomes we're talking about.
Exactly.
Now, the Houston Texans, they clobbered the Chargers last week. I think it was 32-12 as the final score. They took care of business. They were dogs that game too, and they
Yes. I thought that was an easy pick.
Everyone.
I thought Houston over LA was an easy pick, and I saw that they were underdogs. I was like, this is one of the easiest picks of the weekend.
Free money.
Yeah.
That was free money. If you took that and you got plus money on that, congratulations, because you're rolling that right into this week. Now, Texans are sitting here at plus 385. You're talking big plus money.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know if I could take the Texans outright. But 8.5 is a very wide spread. The last 2 weeks, the Chiefs have beaten both of their, at least, not including the Broncos win when they faced the Chiefs backups.
Right.
Their last 2 wins have been decided by over 10 points. So that kind of that idea that the Chiefs had been not blowing teams out has been kind of shed in the last month or so. They've really kind of handled business, and they've been playing really clean football. So the other narrative for the Chiefs have been the turnovers and their offense just not being able to click with the amount of turnovers. But they have had, I think, 7 games now of 0 turnovers. So I don't know. Do you think that streak continues going in against the Texans? Now they've had, I think, 23 days off of football, at least for their starters. So how much do you think that kind of plays into it, and how much do you think that's going to affect their game and their clean football going into this game against the Texans?
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see Pat Mahomes tossing an interception or so, but I think they have that championship experience, and Pat Mahomes has he's never not gotten to the championship, the AFC championship game in his career.
Yep.
So I think if anyone's taking the Texans, I think it's a hope and a prayer. I think the Chiefs are making it past probably pretty easily. Do we have the score of what late in the season when they played? What that was decided by?
The Texans and the Chiefs?
The Texans and Chiefs.
Pull that up real quick. If I remember correctly, it was a close win over the Chiefs. If I remember the right game, I think that was won by a last-second field goal.
Okay.
No, actually, no. It was 27-19.
Okay.
Chiefs.
So that's right at that 8 points, so personally, I like the Chiefs minus 8.5 in this game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. You know what? I have a knack for picking underdogs. I do it all the time on this show. I feel like, it's not even on purpose, too. I just always end up picking the dogs. Just 8.5 points is a lot of points for me. But again, like I said, the last few weeks have been kind of a trend. They have Hollywood Brown, and that's kind of coincided with getting Hollywood Brown back, is their offense is a little more unlocked.
Right.
They're not just reliant on guys like Xavier Worthy, rookies, where Pacheco's back too. They're not relying on the corpse of Kareem Hunt to carry them on.
Definitely.
So, this offense is starting to fire on all 4 cylinders. You could even consider it 6 cylinders. You know what? As much as I like to take the dogs here, I'm kind of talking myself out of it. I'm going to take the Chiefs 8.5 here. Over under, I feel like that this is kind of easy money to take the over, though. Would you think?
I'd agree.
41.5. I mean, that's if you're taking the spread for the Chiefs and you're taking the under. I mean, you're projecting a 32-10 type of game. No, not even like a 28-10 type of game.
Right.
And I just don't foresee that with the way that this Texans offense has been looking as of late.
Right.
I think this Texans team is warmed up. They're primed. I think we might see a slow start from the Chiefs, but I think they're going to turn the Jets on in the second half.
I agree.
Do you have any prop favorites that you like for this game?
I'd take like Nico Collins anytime touchdown in this game.
Nico Collins anytime touchdown is sitting at plus 185 on FanDuel. He has the fifth shortest odds for a touchdown. The favorite here is Joe Mixon. There's fun fact here. There is no one that's with odds on money for anytime touchdown here, which I find fascinating because not even Isaiah Pacheco has it. It's plus 160. Yeah. The shortest odds for anytime touchdown here is plus 140, and that's Joe Mixon, who is questionable to play to begin with.
Right.
Now, I saw a Rappaport report late last night that he is expected to play, but for a guy that was not even who's questionable to play going into it, for him to have the shortest odds is pretty interesting to me. And
especially with that run defense of the Chiefs too, I would be hesitant to take Joe Mixon anytime touchdown.
Yeah. Every single touchdown scorer having plus odds here is, I feel like there's a lot of money to be made in this game specifically. I think this game is going to be much more of an offensive showdown than Vegas thinks it's going to be, but I guess we'll find out. That game kicks off at 4:30 today. Moving on to the Commanders at the Lions. The Lions are 9.5 point favorites at home in Detroit. Over/under set at 55.5.
Wow.
Jaden Daniels has been an absolute superstar all this season. He is the favorite to win Rookie of the Year, with Bo Nix closely behind him. This game has every making to be an absolute shootout. Right now, 91% of the money is on Detroit. My question is, are you fading the general public or are you tailing the general public here?
I don't know, because you never really know with Detroit. Sometimes they get those close, hard-fought wins, and sometimes they just come out rolling and you can just not stop them. But I think the thing that will factor in is Jaden Daniels. He is a rookie. He did come out. He did beat Tampa Bay last week on a game-winning doink field goal. And if I did take the points, which I'm kind of leaning towards for the Commanders, I would still like Detroit winning. Yeah. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take Commanders plus 9.5, but I still like Detroit with the win.
We're kind of locked in on the same here. Now, the Commanders, anytime you have a divisional playoff game with 9.5 point, that 9.5 points, I don't remember the last time I've seen a divisional matchup with that long of odds and that big of a spread for a team.
Definitely.
The Commanders got here for a reason.
Exactly.
They are a playoff team, and it's a young, hungry team. And you know what? This team reminds me a lot. You hear this all the time, but it reminds me a lot of the Houston Texans last year, where a team that's way ahead of schedule, they kind of go in and then they face, I guess, what you would consider the battle-torn Lions, which is a weird thing to still say.
Right.
But since Dan Campbell took over, going in from year 3 and onwards, it's been kind of that thing where, I don't know, the Detroit Lions are kind of more of a playoff experienced team.
Right. It's crazy to think about that. Yeah.
Right now, there's a lot of money on this game, but 9.5 is just so long for me for a divisional playoff game,
Definitely.
even on the road against the Detroit Lions. So for me, I'm right there with you. I think the Lions do pull this one out. I mean, the Lions are they were preseason one of my picks to go to the Super Bowl, so I'm going to stick true to that pick. I'm going to lay the points, though. Give me 9.5 Commanders. Over under 55.5. Do you dare take the over here?
That's a very high over, but it's just you never know with the Lions. You know, sometimes they come out and they'll just score 45 points.
It's unbelievable.
But I think I would take the over there. I would take the over.
So if we're talking 55.5, that over beat in, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of the last 6 games for the Lions.
Yeah.
The only one where it didn't happen was that last game against the Vikings where they clobbered them for the division title. So I don't know. I think that it's tempting to go after the Lions here and for the over under, but I don't know. Me personally, I'm staying away from that altogether.
Yeah.
Any props that you like for this game?
This game, I would love to see David Montgomery anytime touchdown.
Okay. Minus 175 on
Yes.
FanDuel right now. That seems like a no-brainer to me,
Yes.
too. He is healthy. He's finally back. He's rested up. I think they're going to kind of...
Yeah, I'm happy he's back. I love David Montgomery, so.
Great. Do you dare take him at first touchdown score?
No.
Plus 500?
No.
Now, okay. I'm right there with you. Commanders at Lions. Give me the points. I'm not even touching the over-under. Going into Sunday's slate, Rams at Eagles. This game is going to have some weather. It's in Philadelphia. It's outdoors. Matt Stafford historically has been not very well performing in the snow. He has always played in, whether it be in a dome in Detroit or in sunny LA, he has never performed well in the snow. So keep that in mind as the Rams are 6.5-point dogs. Over-under is set at 43.5. What's your take here?
So with the weather that you were talking about, if weather was not an issue, I would be taking the Rams plus 6.5.
Yep.
However, with the cold and the snow that's coming, I think Philadelphia minus 6.5 is probably the easiest. Pair that up with a Saquon touchdown, and I think that's probably the easiest pick of the week.
All right. Saquon's rushing prop is currently at 111.5 for yards.
That seems a little steep.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
And I feel like that Vegas is really looking at this and thinking how much the weather is going to play a point. Let me look at Philadelphia weather while we're at it. But honestly, I love it's weird to say that I feel like the Eagles have been underrated this whole season. They have done nothing but win, I feel like, all this season. But they have Saquon Barkley, who is honestly probably I'm going to just put my flag down on it. He's the offensive player of the year.
Yes.
He won this no problem, and it wasn't even close. I mean, Derrick Henry had 1,900 yards rushing, but Saquon is right there. I mean, what is it, the 11th all-time 2,000-yard rusher?
Yeah, I wish they would have let him go get the record. That would have been nice.
I know, and you could. I don't know if you saw the reports or anything, but he was pissed about it.
Yes, yep.
But the Eagles have done nothing but win, and I just feel like this is Philadelphia's kind of allow me to reintroduce myself game against this Rams team that has been very. I don't know what the word is for them, but they've been young, hungry. It's been kind of exciting to watch. I remember this past offseason where Matt Stafford was like, I don't even know half the guys' names on this team. He's like, it's like the old man in a ragtag team, and a lot of times I like that story in the playoffs. But in Philadelphia, in the snow, this has Philadelphia blowout all over it.
Definitely.
I have the weather pulled up, and it's going to be right in the 30s. Heavy snowstorm is the projection. Right during the game, there's going to be the highest % chance of precipitation, and wind gusts as well. So I think, you know what? I'm going to just say it. I like a 111.5 for the over for Saquon Barkley. I might sit there and take 150. I might lay 150 on that because I feel like this is just going to be one of those iconic playoff games where it reminds me a lot of like the the Bills Colts game back in like 20, the snow game, where
Yes.
it's just like you can't see anything, but there's just snow
Yeah.
everywhere. If you wanted to lay 150 yards on Saquon Barkley, that's plus 330 right there.
Yeah, it's not bad odds.
I like that. I like that quite a bit for given the weather conditions. But I think that this is one of those rare cases where it's going to be a blowout. But I'm going to take the under here.
Yeah.
I think that this is going to be like a Rams 9, Eagles 28 type game.
I'd have to agree with that.
So I like Philadelphia, and I like the under here, and I like all the over on Saquon Barkley's rushing stats. All right, game of the week. This is the big one. This is why we watch football.
Yes.
MVP favorite Lamar Jackson versus MVP favorite Josh Allen. Ravens at Bills, 6:30, Highmark Stadium. Where else would you rather be? Ravens, 1.5-point favorites over the Bills. The Bills are home dogs in the playoffs. This is the first time the Bills have ever been a home playoff dog since the merger. Since before, I think it was the AFL Championship the last time. It was the AFL Championship in the 60s that they were ever home dogs. So this is historic, obviously, for a multitude of reasons. Now, there's a ton of stats here that are so interesting to me. This is Lamar Jackson's first time playing in a game under 25 degrees. It's going to be cold. We're in our studio in Niagara Falls, New York.
Mm-hmm.
The weather's pretty similar, but as you get closer to Orchard Park, I mean, that snow band plays a part. And the snow band from Lake Erie is so unpredictable. Right now, they're projecting there to now be weather during the game. So this is Lamar Jackson's first time ever playing below 25 degrees. However, he is rated as the league's best quarterback in games under 32 degrees. So he's played all of these great games in temperatures between 26 and 32, but he's never played at 25. Josh Allen, however, when you take the temperature below 25 degrees, is the best quarterback in the league.
Mm-hmm.
He has the highest passer rating. I think it's a QBR of 115. I want to say that's his passer rating, 115. He's like, I saw it earlier, it's 24-6 touchdown to interception ratio when in games below. So this is going to be an absolute showdown. Again, this is why we watch football. This is why we play the game and why we watch the game. So over-under is set at 51.5. Alex, what is your prediction?
I think it's going to be a shootout.
Yep.
So I think the over is probably an easy pick right here.
All right. Do you have a prediction for the game?
I think I like the Ravens -1.5.
Yeah.
Yes, I like the Ravens. And I would like to. I think you could even put Derrick Henry. What's his prop at for rushing yards?
Rushing yards, Derrick Henry. He is currently sitting at 96.5 rushing yards.
See, I would even bump that up to like 125.
Yeah.
I would bump that up. I know that was like one of the biggest things last time is the Bills could not stop Derrick Henry. And even if they do sell out for Derrick Henry, then you got to worry about Lamar taking off and running.
125 yards sits at plus 235 odds.
Yes.
So here's the thing now. These are two very different teams from the first time that they met up in week 4. The Ravens obviously won that game 35-10, as we've all heard, as we've all talked about over the last few weeks. This is two different teams. The Bills had there's a list going around on social media about all the players that the Bills didn't have. But I mean, at the same time, Ravens were also missing players, so you can't really factor that too much. At that point in time in week 4, the Ravens were the worst defense in the league. Mm-hmm. Bills could only lay 10 points. So that's kind of a moot point, but it's going to be really interesting to see Matt Milano, Terrell Bernard, Amari Cooper, who else? All these guys having an impact, and this is the healthiest the Bills have looked. They're getting healthy at the right point in time right now. The only player that's questionable is Ray Davis, who suffered that concussion last week against the Broncos. Everyone else is cleared, all good to go, and we'll see if Ray Davis plays. But this is both of these teams at full force minus Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers is currently listed as doubtful, which is also a big swing for the Bills because, to your point, it'll help them be able to sell out against the run.
Right.
Rashad Bateman don't get me wrong, has been a fantastic player this season. He has been, he's finally starting to live up to that draft potential that he was, picked at, and what he, kind of that potential that he was drafted for. It's starting to come into fruition. At the same time, Christian Benford is quietly one of the best corners in the league, and I feel like the Bills will have a plan to kind of shadow Rashad Bateman with Christian Benford. The matchup that concerns me the most, obviously outside of Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson's two-headed monster rushing threat, is how those fantastic Ravens tight ends stand up in coverage against Bills defense. I don't love the Bills defense, especially their defensive coverage in the middle of the field. Something like that has been a problem all year, aside from the rushing woes. So there's kind of this like two-factor thing to watch for both of these, for this defense as a whole. And to your point, this all perfectly plays into this being an absolute shootout. But I am going to have to disagree with you on this game, and not even me being a homer here. The Bills are 9-0 this season at home. I think no other team has ever won 9 home games in a season. I don't quote me on that, but if it's not only, it's very few.
Right.
They're the only team this season to have won 9 home games. So the Chiefs Chiefs won all 8 of their home games, but they haven't played yet. Right. So we can say that for now. But I think the Bills in Buffalo is going to have a very drastically different result than the Bills in Baltimore. Right. So that being said, I like the Bills outright. They have plus money right now, and I think this is going to be an over. Any props that you like for this game?
I'd say Mark Andrews anytime touchdown.
All right. Mark Andrews anytime touchdown is at plus 165, so Vegas would tend to agree with you there. Derrick Henry has minus 220 odds to score a touchdown. I don't love that. I think the Bills are going to do a lot to make sure that Derrick Henry doesn't see the end zone.
Right.
I think Lamar Jackson has better odds to see the end zone in terms of just actual game value. Mm-hmm. So the odds are longer at plus 180. I love Lamar Jackson anytime touchdown here. I have a feeling that I think back to that. I think it was the 2019 or 2020 game where the Bills faced the Ravens, and Lamar Jackson, that gif that's been floating around of him juking Matt Milano out of his feet.
Yeah.
Matt Milano's lost a step, especially since then. I have a feeling that gif might be recreated. Lamar runs into the end zone here, so I don't hope for that, but I do anticipate that. Yeah. There's a couple different props that I like here that we could kind of bunch into a parlay. If we took the Bills money line, we took the over. I love Josh Allen anytime touchdown here, and I love Lamar Jackson anytime touchdown. Both quarterbacks scoring, Bills winning, over on points, plus 14.29 for that little four-legger right there.
Those are good odds right there.
You throw $10 on that for anyone listening, you're going to get $142 out of it. So not a bad bet. That's my parlay of the day, but we'll see how it goes. Again, it's going to be very interesting to see how the rest of this plays out. It's tough for me to have to go against my Super Bowl pick. My Super Bowl pick was Ravens-Lions before the season started, so that very well could still be a thing. For my own sake, I hope not. For being a Bills fan, I hope that's not the case. Yeah. But if the Bills do end up losing here, I'm probably going to root for the NFC this year.
Yeah. Don't blame me.
Do you have a final Super Bowl prediction?
Final Super Bowl prediction right now, I'd have to say, I'm going to say Eagles Chiefs.
Chiefs?
Yeah.
Rematch
kind of a rematch of
2022.
Yeah.
That honestly would be a good Super Bowl. Out of the possible matchups, but I think there's 16 different matchups that could happen if my math's right. I think that would be up there in my top 5. Yeah. Just the storylines going into that. Again, for the Eagles, for whatever reason, being underrated this year, which is so weird to me. Obviously, the big one that people would love to see is Bills-Lions.
Yes,
one of these
that would
teams,
be a classic, yeah.
One of these teams getting their first Super Bowl would be awesome. And again, as interesting as it would be, I'd love to root for the Texans. Mm-hmm. If the Texans can somehow be the Cinderella team and pull off the upset against the Chiefs,
right?
it's very unlikely, but imagine a Texans Commanders Super Bowl. It's in the realm of possibility
Yes,
here.
it would be crazy.
I would love, the odds of that are extraordinarily low. But I mean, you're right there. So if I had to choose, one non-Bills team to go to the Super Bowl, I'm rooting for the Texans just because it's a team that we haven't seen. And you know what? As much as the discourse has been between Ravens and Bills fans, and how toxic it's been over the last couple weeks, especially, I wouldn't mind seeing Lamar Jackson hoist the Lombardi. Both Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson are two of the greatest players in the league. I love Lamar Jackson as a player. I love watching him. I love watching this Ravens team too. They are a fun team to watch, just objectively.
Yeah.
So if the Bills were to lose to the Ravens, I wouldn't mind seeing the Ravens in the Super Bowl. Yeah. Ravens, Eagles, Battle of the Birds. I mean, come on,
that'd be a great Super
that's a
Bowl
great
as well.
matchup. So I don't know. There's a lot of given these 8 teams that are left, I feel like there are plenty of good options for Super Bowls this year. There's not really a team that wouldn't have a good storyline going into it. Right. I think this is going to be an entertaining Super Bowl one way or another. So who knows? That is all I have for football content for you today. Do you have anything else that you'd like to add to the show?
I have one question about the Bills Ravens game. Do you think so? We've seen Tyler Bass have kicking struggles, and then this year we've seen Justin Tucker surprisingly have kicking struggles. Do you think that'll play a factor into this game at all?
God, I hope that for neither of these teams' sake, that it comes down to a game-winning field goal, especially in these conditions.
Yes.
I think that it definitely could play a factor. I think we're going to see an odd score in this game because of it. I have a feeling at least one of these guys are going to miss a kick, whether it be a missed field goal, whether it be a blocked extra point, whether it be special teams is going to play a part one way or another in this game. I don't know how exactly it's going to look, but you saw last week the Broncos kind of exposed the Bills on special teams. I mean, they were not prepared. Everyone in the stadium saw it, but the Bills were not prepared for a special teams play. They weren't prepared for that fake punt, and it's something that's been an issue over the last few years. I have a very strong feeling that this is Matthew Smiley's last season as the Bills special teams coordinator because of it, because this is another gaffe that we've seen. And then even going back into last year, that fake punt that they did to having Damar Hamlin run the ball. I don't know what we're thinking here. It's a Disney Channel original movie play. I just hope to God that I don't see any of that in this game this weekend. But yeah, to answer your point, I do think it's going to play a factor. I think it'd be a very realistic prediction to have one of these guys miss an extra point and have that matter late into the game. And if it comes down to a game-winning field goal, it could go in 50 different directions.
Definitely.
So I absolutely agree with you. I think that both these kickers, Justin Tucker is still considered the greatest kicker of all time, but he has definitely lost a step this season, particularly. I think he is middle of the pack or towards the bottom of the league in field goals over 40 yards, which is not something you expect to see because he had, I think at one point in time, he held the longest streak for 50-plus field goals ever. He had that streak at some point in time, but obviously it was not this year. So, I think that's a great point to bring up, and I hope for both these teams' sakes that it doesn't come down to that. Anything else you want to add to the show today?
No, that's all I got.
Awesome, Alex. Thank you for coming in. I'm glad we were finally able to work this out.
Definitely.
Get you in here. You were fantastic. If I hadn't known that you were a first-time podcast guest, I would have thought that you had been doing this forever. You were a true natural. You were a pro. So thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
And talking ball. And, best of luck to your Broncos moving forward. And then
best of luck to your Bills.
And then truly best of luck going back to school.
Thank you.
Safe travels as you head back.
Thank you.
But that is all I have for the Big YAC today. Thank you to everyone who tuned in and listened at this special time, a Saturday morning, which I don't think has ever been done in the history of Big YAC. I've always kind of slept in, or if I haven't slept in, I've been working. So thank you for tuning in on this special time, and we'll talk to you guys next week for Championship Sunday. Have a great one.